Hello, welcome to part 4 of my video series about building a retail store in Blender. In the last video, we put in all the floor and wall fixtures, and in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the storefront. The storefront design is pretty simple. There's a large opening in the center, a signage band above, glass on either side with black metal framing. There's also an exterior floor as well as a bulkhead above. Here's where we left off from the last video. To start building the storefront, I'm going to grab the elevations as well as the fixture plan. First thing I'm going to do is model the exterior floor and bulkhead. Starting with the floor, Shift A, add a new plane, 1 to go in the front view, GZ to make sure it aligns with the ground plane, and then I'm just going to put it outside the storefront like this. Reset origin to geometry. There you have floor plane. And then the next thing I'm going to do is model this bulkhead. 3 to go into the side view. I'm going to trace this with a single vertex and then extrude it across to model the bulkhead. I'm going to start by adding a plane. Tab into edit mode, A to select all, S0 to merge all 4 of those vertexes to one point, Alt M to bring up the merge command, and I'm going to merge by distance. You'll see that I deleted 3 vertices there, and so now there's only 1 vertex there. 3 to go into side view again, and I'm going to move this single vertex down to align with the beginning of this shape. E to extrude, snap there, E to extrude vertically, snap here, E to extrude, control to snap. And now I have traced this shape. Tab into edit mode, A to select all, E to extrude, X to lock in the X direction, 1 to go into front view, GX and snap to the end. Now I have an exterior floor as well as a bulkhead. A to select all, SX, scale it so that it goes outside of the camera bounds. In side view, I'm just going to grab this and pull it up vertically. 0 to go into camera view, and I see that there's a small little space there. I'm just going to pull it up GZ so that's covered. If I look in the fixture plan, this would technically be where my storefront begins, and this right here is actually a neutral area where another brand would have a store over here, typically. So we call this a neutral pier. To model both of those, add a cube, align it in plan, reset origin to geometry, 1 to go into front view, GZ to snap to the bottom, select the top vertices, and then GZ to go to the underside of that. And again, reset origin to geometry. Shift D to duplicate it on the other side. And now there's an open space on either side over here and over here. I'm going to cut this in half with an edge loop and extrude it over here off camera. And do the same on this side. Tab into edit mode, edge loop, grab this face, E to extrude, off camera. If you go to output and then render region, it'll clip the outside of your camera view and you can see what is actually showing up. So I'm just adjusting all of these pieces so that they cover the entire frame. Grab this edge, GY, and pull it towards the camera. So now I have the surrounding area modeled. I'm going to model the storefront now. So grab the storefront elevation. I'm going to start with the metal frames, work my way across the storefront starting here and across. Shift right click, add a cube, align it with this structural frame. A to select all, Shift T to duplicate, Shift T to duplicate, R to rotate 90 degrees, GX to align, GZ to pull it up vertically, align with that drawing, select linked all, Shift D, Z to drop down the bottom piece. So now I have a window, 7 to go into plan view. This is too thick. I'm going to align this with plan, just make it a lot thinner. GY, GY. And there should be 3 panes of glass right here. Do an edge loop, grab this edge, duplicate it, Shift D, right click, key S to separate, grab that edge, tab into edit mode, A to select all, E to extrude, Z, control to snap there. And so now I have a pane of glass. Do 2 edge loops. To do that, Control R, move the scroll wheel up to increase the number of edge cuts, left click, right click to keep them centered. To create a small gap in between each pane of glass, Control B, I can bevel both of those edges, face select, and then just delete each of these faces. X, F to delete. So now this is going to be my 3 panes of glass. Here's my asset browser. I'm just going to drop a glass material on there. In the shader editor, my glass material is just a combination of a glossy and transparent shader. Reset the origin to geometry on all these objects. 1 to go into front view, Shift D, X to duplicate, Control M, X to mirror in the X direction, Shift C to go into wireframe, GX to snap to the drawing, and now I have 2 windows. One to go in the front view, I'm going to grab this column, Shift D, X, R 90 degrees to rotate, GZ, GX to align the top corner, vertex selection mode, GX, Control to align on that right side, grab the bottom edge, GZ, snap here, and then I'm actually going to separate this into a new object, PS, reset origins to geometry, A to select all, unisolate. I'm going to select the side elevation in addition to my storefront drawings and isolate them again. There's a small vestibule here that I'm also going to be modeling. In the side elevation, you can also see that there's a soffit that I can model and extend across the storefront. 3 to go in the side view, shift right click, add a new cube. This is going to be my soffit, G, Y, GZ to align with the soffit, GZ to pull it all the way up to the top of the ceiling, and then G, Y to pull this all the way to the front. And then GX to pull it all the way across. Reset the origin to geometry. Again, I do that because the origin is over here. If I were to rotate or scale, it would be about this point. And usually I like it when I can scale and rotate about the center of an object. So I often just hit A to select all, right click, origin to geometry, and that will reset that for all of your selected objects. So now there's a soffit. So this is what it looks like from the inside. If you ever want to change the field of view of your modeling space, under the N menu, if you click view, you can see it is set by default at 50 millimeters. If you find that it's too zoomed in, you can increase or decrease to change the field of view. Sometimes I find working inside of buildings feels a little bit like this, like you're way too zoomed in, and it's hard to navigate and it gives you a headache. So if you increase this to a lower number, you'll be able to rotate around objects a little bit easier. Also, an easy way to rotate inside of a building, Shift tilde, it gives you the walk function. And so now as I'm moving my mouse around, the camera is looking around, and then you can use the WASD keys to do movement. So W goes forward, S goes back, A strafes left, D strafes right, and I believe Q lowers the camera, E raises the camera. So that's an easy way of just kind of flying around your space. So the last thing I got to do is model these two sides. I'm going to select both of these, tab into edit mode, select one face of each of these objects. Control Shift left click is what I've set up. Select linked all, selects the remaining parts of that object that I've already started to select. You can partially select an object, and select linked all will select the rest of it. Shift D to duplicate, Y to slide back to align there. And then I'm going to model a metal frame that goes in here. Tab in edit mode, vertex selection mode. I'm going to grab the top of each of these. Shift Z to go back into solid shading, GZ to control snap to this face. So now it aligns with that soffit. I do that because I can then borrow geometry from each of these objects. For this other column, Control R to create an edge loop. Select this edge, duplicate, right click, PS to separate, and separate this one as well. So grab those two edges, tab into edit mode, A to select all, E to extrude, Y for the Y direction. I'm going to bring that up to the front column. Apply scale, Control A, S, tab into edit mode, A to select all, I to inset. I'm going to give it a 2-inch metal frame, Shift D to duplicate these faces, right click to reset to their original position, H to hide, select these faces, XF, Alt H unhides, and these are going to be my glass panes. So under materials, I'm going to add 2 slots, tab into edit mode. In the second slot, I'm going to search for glass, and then assign. Grab this one, assign. Right now, some of the lights and the drawings are distracting, so if I want to temporarily disable that, that's called turning the overlays off. Alt Shift Z will temporarily turn those off, and then Shift the tilde to kind of look around the space. 0 to go back in the front view. I'm going to select one piece of my new storefront, M, new collection. I'm going to call this storefront, H to hide, and then continue to select the rest. M, storefront, glass, frame, M, storefront, H hide, Alt H to unhide everything, minus over the menu to collapse it, right click S to select my storefront, Alt Q to isolate, and now I have my storefront on a separate collection, so you can easily hide it. In my asset editor, I have a black metal material that I'm going to drop onto that, select all the other objects, Shift left click to create an active object, Control L, M to link materials, and now I have a black storefront. Unisolate. If I wanted to place a sign, I would select my signage band, Shift S to place the 3D cursor centered about this object, Shift A, text. I need to rotate it, R in the X axis, 90 degrees to get it vertical, 1 to go back into front view, S to scale down a bit, tab into edit mode, write whatever you want. Of course, you can change the font under data, and then font. I'm just going to leave it as the default font. GY to snap to the front face there. Again, you can see Z fighting, where the computer is not sure whether to show the white text object or the black plane, so they're overlapping, so it's giving this graphic glitch. To avoid that, I usually just move it slightly in front of it. This is still a text object that you can delete and edit. In object mode, I'm going to search, convert it to mesh. Now, when I tab into edit mode, this is a mesh object with edges and vertexes and faces. 1 to go into front view, tab into edit mode. I usually use this command, search for beautify faces. It just cleans up the geometry a little bit. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it usually makes letters symmetrical and a little more organized. Tab into edit mode, A to select all. I'm going to extrude this to give it some thickness. I'm going to say 2 inches. Control B allows you to draw a boundary, and when you go into rendered view, it will render just that portion of the window. This is good to save your computer a little bit of memory. So for materials, I'm going to give it 2 slots. One of them is going to be an LED illumination. Tab into edit mode. I have all those front faces still currently selected, and I can assign that to illuminate just the front face of each of those letters. In case you accidentally click off, you can select one face, Shift G, select similar, coplanar. Will also select all the faces that are in line with your current selection. Assign. 0 to go on front view, GX, center it a little bit. And one other thing I forgot to model were the mannequin platforms in the storefront windows. So here was my fixture library over here. I'm going to select the platform as well as the plan, isolate them, and then I'm going to duplicate this platform in each of these storefront windows. Alt-D to create another one, Alt-D to place these over here. GX, A to select all, Alt-Q to unisolate, 0 to go into my camera view, and now there are platforms in the windows. So this looks kind of nice with the light coming out of the store and the outside looking dark, but if you wanted to, you could go to your shader editor. Now would be a good time to add a world environment texture. And for the texture, choose an HDRI image that you like. So this is after, this is before. You can sever these connections with Control right click. Cha, cha. And that's it for part 4. Now we have a storefront on a separate collection that we can turn on and off if we want to look inside or outside of the store. Thank you again for watching. In the next video, I'm going to be doing finishing touches like merchandise and mannequins. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.